how to network and be a connector. It's vital if you want to be a smart real estate investor. That's today's show. Let's dive into it. Here we are at our very first rental property. Hey everyone, I'm Clayton Morris, longtime real estate investor, and this show is all about helping you build financial intelligence and financial freedom. We do buy and hold real estate. That's what I love to do. Buy single family homes, renovate them, place tenants in them, and that's how we've been able to achieve financial freedom. You can start a business, you can buy gold. I don't care how you do it, but that's the focus of this channel, which is to help you build financial intelligence. On today's show, I've got a special guest. His name is Alex Pardo. He's an entrepreneur. He's been doing this for a number of years now, investing in real estate. He's done over 300 flip deals, and he knows all about connecting, which is a way that you can actually build a successful business. And we have some mutual friends in the business, and I'm thrilled to have him back here on the Investing in Real Estate show. Alex, welcome back.
Clayton, thank you for having me on again. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed the first time around and looking forward to this one as well.
Awesome stuff. So the Flip Empire is your company. Tell our folks at home about that and what that's all about, and we'll kind of dive into being a connector today.
Absolutely. So about 2.5 years ago, I always wanted to figure out a way to contribute and give back more. I had done some consulting and some coaching, some investors that have been wanting to get into the business, and decided to launch a podcast called the Flip Empire Show. And so we have published around 300 episodes so far, and it's my way to, ironically enough, we're going to be talking about networking and connecting. That's just one way that I can do that by serving, a larger audience. And from that, my network has grown and it's opened up a lot of doors and opportunities. And I'll kind of defer to you to ask specific questions, but I think we need to be very intentional about networking and building our ecosystem, our sphere of influence. It doesn't happen just by chance. So we'll get into the meat and potatoes from there.
Yeah, for sure, because you can't do this in a vacuum. So I want to kind of unpack this idea of being a connector and networking. I think it's so important. But before we get there, give folks at home a little history. How did you get into real estate investing? Were you a corporate guy and decided to throw in the towel and make the plunge into real estate investing?
Yeah, I graduated from Florida International University in 2002. And took a job with General Electric in their financial management program, which essentially was a rotational program where I was exposed to different areas of the business, finance, accounting, etc. Never forget, 3 months into that job, I was averaging, Clayton, like 70 to 80 hours a week. Wow. And, I looked around and I said, this is not for me. Coming out of college, I was 21 years old, 22 years old. I was making $50,000 a year, which to me at that time was a whole lot of money. But when I actually did the math and I realized what I was making per hour, I said, this just isn't working. Not to mention, I just wasn't happy. Long story short, I finished my 2-year commitment. I ended up backpacking around Europe with a couple of buddies for 3.5 months. I was in an internet cafe in Ibiza, and a friend of mine sent me an email. He said, hey, I'm going to this marketing for deals boot camp. That's what they were calling it back then. And it's $997. That was kind of my fork in the road moment, right? I had financed an entire backpacking trip on a credit. I didn't really have too much money left to my name. But I knew that if I was going to go back home in a couple of weeks, and I just didn't know what I was going to do. So ended up paying that boot camp. 60 days later, ended up doing my first deal. Almost replaced my income at GE with that first deal. That was back in 2005, and haven't looked back ever since.
Wow. So tell me about the first deals that you started doing in real estate. I mean, it's quite a leap from the corporate world saying, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to go from that to I've got to put some kind of food on the table. It's always easier when you're single and you don't have kids to worry about. So that making that transition can seem a little bit more daunting. But how did you make that transition? What was your first deal like?
So really quick, I think it's important. I'll kind of put myself out there. It was extremely humbling when I left GE. I actually had to move back in with my parents at 25 years old, which is, being a single guy in Miami, it's not the best look, Clayton. And it was humbling. So one of my big motivators was just getting out of my parents' house, right? And I was an adult. I was a man at that point, pretty much. So yeah, my first deal, this is not what I recommend, by the way, but I took out one of the letters in that Marketing for Deals bootcamp manual, and it was pre-foreclosures. Back in 2005, 2006, pre-foreclosures was the hot thing. Short sales were starting to become pretty popular. And so I took out a pre-foreclosure letter, There was a company called Foreclosures Daily. I bought a list of people going that were in pre-foreclosure, and I literally hand wrote 350 letters, stuffed them, sent them out. Within 3-4 days, I started getting phone calls and knowing other than what I had learned at this boot camp, which was more about marketing for deals. It wasn't even what to do when the phone rings. And I just started failing forward. I know that sounds very cliche, but I fumbled my way through these conversations. I ended up in several living rooms, sitting at the kitchen table, talking to sellers. And so my very first deal, which I don't recommend, was a short sale. That was the first time I learned about a loss mitigation department and, getting all this documentation. It wasn't a very plain Jane typical wholesale deal, which is why it took about 60 days. There was a lot of fear associated with doing that first deal. So I actually brought on a friend that got into the business shortly before me, and him and I tackled that deal together. We ended up going to, they didn't have meetups at the time, so we were going to RIAs, Real Estate Investors Association, asking questions, figuring out what to do, how to do it, made every single mistake in the book, and somehow still ended up closing that deal, made $44,000.
Wow. I love it. Applause there. I mean, and I think a couple of things to unpack there. It's the failing forward. I mean, I did the same thing. I was just making like 50 to 100 phone calls a day. I was calling Craigslist ads. I was, just nonstop. I was like a dog with a bone, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I would go out and meet with sellers. I'd get properties under contract and realize that I had them under contract for way higher than I should have. I had to go back and get it revised. I made every mistake in the book when I first got started. But I love that a short sale, which is a very difficult deal to do. I mean, that's like a high level. I love that that was your first deal. Bravo to you on that.
The good news is that the deals tended to get a little easier from there. But at the same time, I also kind of got a little bit, I don't want to say greedy, but I expected every deal to be like, 40, 50 grand. And when my second, third, fourth, and fifth deal were 5, 10 grand, it was kind of a rude awakening that I happened to like hit it out of the park with my first one. But that not every single deal is like that. And I've learned a lot since then. But I always tell people you're going to learn so much more, Clayton, by doing than by just going out there reading a book. And it's important to educate yourself, but you're going to learn so much more by just doing it. Even when you fail, that should be a testament to people listening that every mistake in the book, we still ended up closing that deal somehow. So
you're going to make mistakes. I mean, it's real estate investing, right? This is why not everybody does it. This is why people are cushy, and they think that their 401k is their cushy retirement plan, right? It's easy to do that because we've been lied to. It's much harder to go out and become a real estate investor and actually affect big change in your life because now you're in control and you can control the deal from soup to nuts and actually bypass, performing assets and put that money monthly in that cash flow in your pocket. So if it were this easy, everybody would be doing it. If you're watching right now thinking, I don't know, should I get into it? Well, how bad do you want it? Make some mistakes. Don't be afraid to make some mistakes. They're going to happen. It's better to maybe get them out of the way or up front, maybe on your first few deals, right?
I think to Tony Robbins, he's the one that always talks about pain. People are motivated by pain and pleasure. Mm-hmm. I think the pain of your current situation, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, has to far exceed the potential pain of failing and just figuring it out. And hopefully stories like mine and like yours, where there's countless stories out there of people failing and still succeeding at the end of the day. Nobody that has accomplished anything in life has gotten there without failing. So
right.
That should be your job, is to fail as many times as possible so you can break through.
Yeah, one more point on the failure before we move on to the networking is, we worked with a company in our Indianapolis market a number of years ago that basically lied to us, deceived us, defrauded us, lied to us about renovation work they were doing. It could have totally debilitated us, stopped us from ever doing business again, ever doing what we were doing. And instead we pushed on, and it helped us grow as a company. Yes, we had to deal with all kinds of fallout as a result of it. My name dragged through the mud. It was a mess. But at the end of the day, we knew that we didn't do anything wrong, and we made a mistake in partnering with this person that we believed and trusted. But we had to live and learn, and you have to grow as a company and move on and keep pushing. Or what am I going to do? Crawl into a corner? You could have crawled into a corner and not done this wholesale deal. You could have crawled into a corner and not done this short sale and said, that's too complicated, I can't do it. And then somebody else was going to swoop in and make that $44,000, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Yep. No, you're spot on. You gotta, I've trained myself now, Clayton, and then we'll talk about the networking and the connecting, but you have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I realized that, that's also another cliche term, but fear is those things that hold us back, that it caps your potential, it caps your dreams, it caps the lifestyle you want, the impact you want. And so you got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable at the end of the day.
So how important is it to be a connector? And what does being a connector actually mean? For a lot of people watching, they might say, I'm a shy person. I don't like to leave the house. I'm not, it's hard for me to come outside of my comfort zone. What is a connector?
Yeah. So, to your point, whether you're shy, you're an introvert, you're an extrovert, realize here's a quick caveat. Sometimes that's a story you're telling yourself. Mm-hmm. But even if you genuinely feel like you're shy, you can still connect. So what being a connector is always thinking about somebody else's wants, needs, and desires before yours. And then figuring out where you can plug a gap, where you can provide a solution, where you can make an introduction, where you can add a resource. How do you to somebody's life? Whenever I connect with someone, I'm always thinking, what does that person need, want, or desire? How can I add value to that person's life? And so part of that is asking questions, listening, being an active listener, genuinely caring about that other person. I think that is step one to being a connector. Is first you have to find out about the person that you're communicating with. I find that oftentimes, and I've been guilty of this, we're having a conversation with someone, but yet we're not fully engaged. We're not fully listening to them. And yet we're more concerned about what we're going to reply instead of really listening to what they're saying and caring, right? You genuinely have to care. And I think that's step one, in my opinion. That's what has served me is when I connect people, when I network, intentional about it, it's because I'm listening and I'm figuring out a way. It could be as simple as buying a book for them that I think can have a massive impact on their life and just shipping it to them. Right? Or it could be about, hey, Clayton, you and I are going to build a relationship after this, and, figuring out that there's a need that you have in your business. And maybe I can solve that problem, or maybe I can introduce you to someone that could potentially solve that problem or add value in some way. And I'll take it upon myself to send out an email or a text intro. You genuinely have to care about other people and wanting to help them. Too many people are concerned about what they're going to get out of a relationship, having their hand out. And I think that's the cardinal rule that people are breaking when it comes to connecting, networking, and just building relationships with people.
You bring up such a great point. If you're ever having a conversation with someone and you know that they're already ready to jump in with the thing that they want to talk about, I mean, there's love in a great conversation, right? There's give and take. But if you're not even listening to what the other person is saying, because there's like a Saturday Night Live character, what's her name? I forget who plays the character, but when someone says, oh, I just went to Disney World. Oh, yeah, I went to Disney World twice last week. Like you having to constantly one-up the other person with your story. You're not getting anywhere. You're not helping. You're not creating connections. You're just trying to show that you're a bigger person somehow. And this is the mistake that I think people make when they go to their real estate meetup groups. If you go to meetup.com and you just find a local real estate meetup group, an REIA in your backyard, and you go, either they'll stand in the corner and not talk to people, or they go and pretend that they are somebody they're not. What do you say about that?
One of the pieces of advice that I hear oftentimes, especially by the gurus, authors, speakers, is act as if. To a certain degree, I think there's a small part of me that understands why they say that. Mm-hmm. But I believe in being fully vulnerable and transparent. I think, especially with social media and Facebook, where you just see like the flash and like people's lifestyles, more authenticity, and more vulnerability. And if that means you share people that you're struggling or you don't have it all figured out, I think people are drawn to that so much more than somebody that acts as if, that has it. And so, you talked about meetups and going to RIAs. When people get started in the business, I tell people that you're new, but that you're going to figure it out. Let them feel your passion, that you're determined to make this happen, and that your goal is to add value to whatever they have going on, I promise you, if you take that approach, more times than not, people are going to open up. And that's how you start to genuinely build relationships, build a network of people. And then, like I've talked about a few times, you just have to be, or you have to be organic with it. Be yourself. Don't try to be someone else, but be intentional at the same time. So you talked about RIAs and meetups. Figure out who are the people you want to connect with, and make it a goal to build a relationship with these people. Understand that it's not going to happen in one conversation or in one meeting. And I think that's a whole separate conversation we can talk about. But so many people, they meet and then they don't follow up after that. And they don't, and it's just touching base. How you doing? Thought about you randomly, just wanted to see what was going on. If there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. And then if there is a need, follow through. And if you can't help that person, let them know, look, right now, I'm not able to plug that gap for you or make that connection, but let me ask around. Let me keep it in mind, and let me just see if there's something I can do. And when I've done that, Clayton, and I have followed up weeks or months later, and I said, hey, remember how I was going to ask around, and I connect, man, people just appreciate it, because if you're being genuine, they can tell. When you genuinely want to help and you want to contribute more to the relationship than get out of it, I think that's one of the reasons my network is where it is today, is because I cultivate it. I genuinely want relationship and community and connection with people.
Yeah, oh, it's beautiful. It's so well put. People instantly know, you're connecting with someone at a real estate meetup group, and you're just trying to get something out of this other person. But how can I help you? You bring something to the table. You wouldn't be in the room if you didn't have something to contribute. Maybe you don't know about real estate investing yet. Maybe you don't have the money. Maybe you don't have all the connections, but you have something of value that you can provide. And if you can figure out a way to connect with someone at that level, how you can, I'd like to take you out to lunch. I think there's maybe some ways I could help your business, and I could maybe learn from you. And that's how real relationships are formed, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And you want to know what, Clayton, taking it a step further, it's so easy to stand out from others in this arena, because most people don't think that way. Mm-hmm. Most people they have their hands out wanting to earn, or they have this entitlement attitude, which kind of drives me crazy. I think so many people today just have that entitlement, they're owed something. It's easy to stand out from those people when you genuinely go in there wanting to serve, wanting to help. And act as a funnel. Here's the last thing I'll say as far as this is concerned. When you receive good information or good advice, or you read a good book, you listen to Clayton, your podcast, and you hear good information, share it with people. Share the episode, share the value. Just act as a funnel for good information. And it's crazy, but not that this is the intention or the purpose, but it always comes back the other way. I don't know if it's law of reciprocation, whatever you want to. But when you genuinely give with no expectation of anything in return, man, things, I can tell you from personal experience, things change.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's so funny when you put these things out into the universe. It's just one of those universal laws that if you are in a defensive mode, always on, defense is the first art of war, or the first signal of war, as Byron Katie likes to say. And if you can be a connector and really try to encourage and help other people, and you are genuinely giving, that's when the universe just opens up to you. It's really amazing the things that can flow into your life. I know it sounds a little hokey, but it is absolutely true. And now we actually have scientific proof about it. Quantum physicists have now proven this. So you can say all you want about how this is hokey. It's absolutely true. What you put out into the universe comes back to you. But why not put it out into the universe genuinely to try to help other people? And you'll find that doors will open for you as well. Kindness responds with kindness. I truly believe that. So, well, Alex, it's been a great time getting to know you. I've truly felt like a great connection with you, and I think a mutual kinship in this business. And I could talk to you all afternoon. So how can people get a hold of you? How can people connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So flipempire.com would be the best place to connect. Of course, you can find me on Instagram or at AlexPardo25. But plug it into the podcast. I think that's probably one of the biggest compliments people has given me, is especially in my local market. They say, well, I'm surprised you shared that resource, or you talked about this or that. it kind of goes back to connecting and just adding value. It all comes back and it comes around full circle. So yeah, if people can find me on iTunes and some of the other places, the Flip Empire Show.
Perfect, perfect. Check it out, the Flip Empire Show. My guest has been Alex Pardo. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Clayton, and I really look forward to having you on the show as well.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to connect with you again. Thanks, Alex. I really appreciate it. And thanks to all of you at home for downloading, subscribing, and making this show such a great success. I love all of your kind feedback. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below on any episode. And also, I want you to go out there, take action, become a real estate investor, and give, listen, connect with other people. That's how you build true relationships. Don't be greedy. Don't think that you can do this all on your own, because you can't. You need help along the way, and reward those people that help you. We'll see you next time, everyone.